the point here.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about this Maimon when I said Shema this morning.
Oh, so it worked.
No, but you don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking, I know I'm supposed to do something now.
But I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
But I don't know exactly how to go about it. But that's a start, no?
Yeah, it is. Anyway, we're...
Pay something?
So he was going deeply into this thing of machshava.
Which page? Pay Dalet, pay Gimel?
Pay Gimel, I think we said, no? Sham?
No.
Pei Vav Gimel.
Pay?
Pei Vav.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was going deeply into this. I think I overthought it, and he's just saying it. Whoever wrote this down wrote it in too many words. He's just saying the usual thing that he always says, that he wants to explain why speech. He wants to explain how the world is just to be likened to how speech is relative to a person. Speech relative to thought, the world is to Hashem. Same thing. Okay, that's all he's saying. I don't think he's saying much more than that.
I'm still left with this contradiction in my mind, that even though I know that Machshava is closer to Hashem and Dibur is closer than Maisa, because once you do the Maisa, it's external, right? I never really understood why it's worse to think something bad than it is to do something bad. Even though I know the reason why, I still don't understand it. It's a contradiction.
Why? You just said it's closer to Hashem. You're making a blemish in a higher place.
Sure, but you didn't actually do anything. Nothing.
But again, by
if
Hashem,
you think something bad, that something did change.
Yeah, in the thought. That's what we're saying. That the thought is closer, in that sense, to Hashem. It's just that Hashem didn't want the thought. He's not interested in the thought. He's interested more in the actions. But in terms of the blemish, it certainly affects higher.
Okay.
Anyway, ועל נאמר הציווי, ואהבת את השם אלוקיך.
Where is this? Where are you?
You tell me. We're just before the end of Pei Vav Gimel. ועל זה נאמר הציווי, ואהבת את השם אלוקיך, שיתבונן כל כך באחד ממש, שיהיה הווי אלוקיך. You should be meditating. So you said, what should I have been thinking? You should be meditating on the fact that Havaya, that the Creator, who is beyond everything, should be your God, meaning should come down, should be reflected בכל לבבך, בכל נפשך, ובכל מאודיך. דהיינו מחשבה, דיבור ומעשה, should be reflected in all your garments, in your thought, speech, and action. שלא יהיה לו מחשבה, דיבור ומעשה כלל, that you shouldn't have your own thought, speech, and action at all, רק בטלים באחד, שהוא למעלה מן המחשבה, ולית מחשבה תפיסה בה. Everything should be included in the one. כי האדם אינו יכול לחשוב רק דבר גשמי, וזהו שקר גמור. It's a very interesting statement. Because man cannot think anything but physical thoughts. Only think physical thoughts.
Can't think spiritual thoughts?
No. And they are a complete deceit, because of what we just said, that if you're looking only at the external aspect of things, you're looking at the extender, you're looking at the piece of paper, you're looking at your nose and your glasses, whatever it is. These are a lie. Why are they a lie? Because they conceal godliness. And it's like what the Alter Rebbe said before he passed away, that now I see the koach hapoel b'nifal, the power of God acting in the physical.
Why do you call it a lie? Why don't you call it concealment?
Same thing. Okay. And if that's all you live by, meaning you can't even imagine in your mind, you can't even in your mind build a construct to acknowledge what's beyond the physical, then you're living a lie your whole life. And you're
that's something else, because that's saying you don't accept Hashem. I can look at this bookcase, and I don't see this godliness behind it. But because I don't see the godliness behind it, doesn't mean to say that I need shaleli in of godliness. I can say, I see all these books, I see everything here. I know that behind it is Hashem. I just personally can't see the power of Hashem holding that bookcase up.
But you have a construct. You're saying, for me,
Yeah.
the bookcase is not going to conceal from my mind God's existence.
Right.
You're in great shape. You're not living in a lie. But if all you can think is just a bookcase, that's all you can have in your mind.
So you want to say that money is to have a good time, and that's all it is. And
So whatever you build, like even science. The whole problem with science today is that it's a very good tool for discovering the physical world, but it makes the assumption there's nothing except the physical world. Why? So theoretically, this assumption was made in order to not confuse people. Don't give me theories that I can't prove. Right? So most scientists live in the ones who are frum, who do believe in God, and I think most of them do, they live a compartmentalized existence. They have what they do in science, what they see in the world, and then they say somehow, in some way, there's more to the reality than what I see. But I can't show any connection between what I see and what I believe. There's no connection between the two. There's two different brains.
Way to become schizophrenic in the end.
That is your good friend's Rabbi Sachs's thesis, that the brain is bicameral because we're meant to think that way. He made it into a lechatchila. This is how it should be. And his books on Torah and science, the great, what did he call it? The great...
Great divine?
No, the great partnership, I don't remember what he called it. It was like trying to show that we're built that way because we have two hemispheres of the brain, and each one is meant to deal with something else. That is considered in Yiddishkeit to be no naim lagid. That exactly is what idolatry is. It's not nice to say it, but the extension, taking that meaning, what is it saying? It's saying, I don't know if he thinks it's the ultimately ideal situation, but he certainly accepts it as the situation. The whole premise of Chassidus is that when God split the waters, higher waters and lower waters, the machlokus should not, in the end, remain a machlokus. The disputes should not, in the end, remain disputes. There should be a synthesis in the end. And if you can't come to the synthesis, then it's like you've missed the whole point of Chassidus. You've missed the whole point of the Baal Shem Tov. If you can't work for that. You have to synthesize it too. The question is how. Nobody knows how to perfectly do it. But
then we should be synthesizing Meshichistim and non-Meshichistim.
Who said that they're even disputing the same thing? I don't even know that they're disputing something.
Well, they are.
I see it as a completely social construct. I don't think it has anything to do with anything.
The dispute is whether you should say the Rebbe is Mashiach, or you should just think it.
It's a social question. It has nothing to do with theology. No, it's never seemed to me to be a theological question. It's not a question. Unless you have people who are crazy and they think that the Rebbe is God.
I don't know.
That's a theological dispute already. And even there I could see it as a social construct. Even that. Because does anybody even understand what they're saying when they say that? Probably not. So anyway, you're right that shalom is a big deal, peace is a big deal, but not everything needs to be made peace in the way that I'm talking about here. Here, to make peace between science and Torah, it's not to get them to sit around the table, because that's not their problem.
No, it's to
figure out, right? To figure out
so
intellectually.
Then you come back to your famous, wave and
right, wave-particle duality. Right, and if you think that they need to have peace made between them, then you don't understand what the issue is. The issue is that there are two ways of looking at the world. There's two ways of looking at things, depending on what I want to measure, how I want to approach it.
Both are true at the same time.
Of course, they're both true. That's what we're saying. That the higher waters and lower waters are all just waters. Yeah. They're both water. Each one is revealing something else. So nature is revealing something, and Torah is revealing something. Does that mean that they should just remain separate because each one is revealing something else? No, they're both revealing a different aspect of one. So there has to be a synthesis between them. You have to be able to move between one and the other. It can't be that they're in two different compartments and they have no connection. This is not the Jews and the Egyptians on the Red Sea and a wall between them. These are things that have to connect. So that's the whole, in any case, so going back to here, so we get something done. So in order to stop thinking about just physical objects and not seeing godliness behind them, you have to have Mesiras Nefesh. And Mesiras Nefesh means כי נפש של אדם הוא מחשבה, דיבור ומעשה, והכל למסור ולהיות בטל באחד ממש. To give all your garments to the one, the thought, speech, and the action. Not to do them for their physical value, not to think physical thoughts for the physical value, but to think the physical thoughts in order to advance the spiritual. And that way you combine the two. So you're nullifying your thought, speech, and action to one. אבל להיות שזה בלתי אפשר, שיהיה בלי מחשבה כלל, לכן צריך לקשר מחשבתו ודיברו ומעשיו להיות מרכבה לרצון העליון ברוך הוא בתורה ובמצוות, since we can't completely nullify ourselves and become like robots, that's not the point. Then what we do is we connect our will to God's will. Meaning we submit our will, not our thought, speech, and action. דאורייתא מחוכמה נפק, שהוא למעלה מן המחשבה, וזהו כל העושה מצווה אחת כהלכתה, וכולו. כל העושה מצווה אחת כהלכתה, מיטיבין לו, מאריכין לו ימיו, ונאכל את הארץ. And anybody who does a mitzvah for, or in the way that it was meant to be done, he receives his part in this world. He has a better life, a longer life, and he inherits the land. So what he's saying is that the mitzvah is a way to appreciate the physical material world in the right way. And then you have a long, good, and successful life.
Amen.
ודבר זה חובה על כל, ואף שהתורה נתלבשה בדברים גשמיים, so even though the Torah talks about physical objects, איסור והיתר וכדומה, these are permissible, these are forbidden, בכל שכן מעשה המצוות שמדברים גשמיים ממש, all the more so the actions of the mitzvot, which are certainly in physical objects, like tzedakah, to give tzedakah in your money, v'chayotze, and similar. hu ki meshal ha'sa'arot hanimshachot me'hamoach. Don't think that this is the main aspect of the Torah. This is like the hairs that come out of the skull. Nobody would say the hairs that come out of my skull are as important as the brain that's inside the skull. Okay? These are external. They have some life force. It's not that they don't have any at all, but they're nothing compared to what's inside the skull. שאין במוח בבחינת שערות בכלל, because there is no hair inside the skull. What's coming out, you don't think that it's some kind of representation of your brain. Okay? It's related, but it's not a representation. כן הוא התורה והמצוות, אף שהם דברים גשמיים, עם כל זה אורייתא מחוכמה נפק. So don't make the mistake of saying that because Torah and mitzvos deal with physical objects, that is their essence. That's not their essence. Their dealing with the physical world is merely, it's the external aspect of what they are. They're much deeper than that. ודבר זה חובה על כל אדם להתבונן בזה היטב, וזה תלוי בבחירתו. And this every person needs to meditate upon and think clearly and understand it, that the Torah is much, much more than the physical dimension. ופירוש השני של ואהבת את השם, לשון עתיד הבא. So until now we've talked about ואהבת in the sense of what are we supposed to meditate on. Okay? The second meaning is the result. What happens after you contemplate this for a long time? לשון עתיד הבא ממילא, that you will come to love God. It's not ואהבת you must love God. It's you shall come to love God.
You will come?
Yeah, you will come. It's a promise, but in the future, you will come. It will happen by itself, as he says. That we call major, the supernal love, the great love, that it comes from above. It's a gift from God. That's why it's called that you will come to this. Meaning Hashem will give this to you. לשון שמיעה שאינו יכול להיות בו שום התבוננות כלל שהוא למעלה מהתבוננות. Sorry, and that's what it means when we say Shema, that you need to hear. What am I hearing? I'm not meditating. That's the literal meaning of to hear is not to meditate. Even though that's how we just explained it for the last 2 days. And when I say Shema Israel, I don't mean meditate Israel. I mean contemplate Israel. I don't mean that. I mean hear. Literally means hear. So what am I supposed to hear? Hear means that it's coming from above. Hashem is speaking and I'll hear. But that will only come by itself. It's not something that I can cause. It's above meditation. It's above contemplation. Now we're coming to the whole point. That's why our parsha begins with giving the shekel. And it's called the holy shekel. Why holy? Because it's coming from above, as it were. It's measured from above. Shekel means to measure, to weigh. So it's being weighed from above. Each person receives from above. It's like a representation of the manna. Yeah, like the manna. Everything should be as the person can contemplate, what he can do in terms of his doing good and refraining from evil. Everything should be done with purpose. That's what causes Hashem to weigh from above and give me what I deserve. And that's a promise. You will come to love. You will receive. And its origin, that it has to be over lasocher, that it has to be completely fungible, is the technical term, but liquid. It can be bought. You can buy and sell it. And at any time, you can break it up into pieces.
It's not fixed.
Okay? It's accepted everywhere. That comes from the fact that comes from God's surrounding light. Sovev kol almin. Why? Because we said surrounding light is equal everywhere. Nashon schol schol. I mean, it's equal to everybody. Again, everybody will receive. Okay? There's a equality here. V'zeu 400 shekel kesef, and that's why we talked about this. That Avraham,
long time ago.
Okay, a few times. There's a whole topic with Avram's kesef, with the silver the silver coins that he weighed to buy the cave of the patriarchs. V'zeu 20 gera shekel. Why 20? Why is the shekel divided into 20 parts? Each part called a gera, which again is the size of I think of a
grain.
Gargir chardal. Mustard seed. Because there are really 2 parts here. There's the part where you meditate and you have to understand everything we did in the first 2 days. That's the memale. He didn't mention it, but that's the memale. That's according to what you understand. Okay? And then there's what God gives you. And that's the sovev. That's the surrounding light. And so each one of them has 10 parts to it. The love from below, which is the contemplative love, the love that comes out of contemplation. Love for God that comes out of contemplation, which we said is like a construct that I have to build in my mind. That is up to me, and there are 10 parts to it. In the same way, the love that comes from above, Ahava Rabbah, also has 10 parts to it. כי כל אחד משני בחינות אהבה הנ"ל כלולה מ10 שכל ומידות כנודע, ובחינת אהבה רבה, אהבה מלמעלה גם כן כלולה מ10 וזהו 20 גרע שקל. וזהו, כי תישא את ראש בני ישראל לפקודיהם, דהיינו נשמות הנקראים ראש. So, this is how we should interpret it. When you elevate the head of the Jewish people, according to their numbers, what does it mean to elevate their head? The head refers to the soul. לפקודיהם, they're counting, לשון והשם פקד את שרה ונתנו איש כופר נפשו, meaning that they're being remembered, that all the souls are being remembered. That's the idea.
Which souls? The souls that were there?
The living souls. The living souls. The ones that are there at that moment. אך שלא לכל אדם בא לו אהבה רבה הנ"ל. But even though we're counting everybody, all the souls, not all the souls merit receiving the love from above. They don't all receive it fully. Why? Because it depends on all their preparation before. And eventually, through all the preparation, you receive from above. But it's up to Hashem to give it or not. If it was entirely up to me, so we'd be talking about the love of the light that fills all worlds, the light that depends on my actions. But here, the light that surrounds all worlds doesn't depend on my actions. It's equal by everybody. It's not dependent on what I do or what I don't do. Hashem decides whether he's going to give it to me or not. So not everybody
That's equal
merits.
all the time, always the same, it never changes.
Right. You have it constantly.
No, but it doesn't get stronger or weaker or anything, no.
Apparently not.
It's consistent.
If it does, if it gets stronger or weaker, it's not because of something that you did. It was very interesting. I once heard this from a guru in India. I wasn't in India, but I heard him speak. He said something really interesting. He was a guy who became a Baal Tshuva, but I don't think it stuck. He was Jewish. I don't think it stuck. He ended up going back to his old ways because he was obsessed about the power that it gave him over people, and he couldn't give that up. So he once said that he was in a taxi in India, or maybe in the West, I don't remember. And somebody asked him, "Are you not afraid to lose the powers that you have?" So he said, "No, I'm not afraid at all." I said, "Why?" "Because there's nothing I can do to ensure that I keep them or don't keep them because I didn't make them." He said a very interesting conclusion out of what do you feel like when you get something from above? That the fear losing it just doesn't make any sense. You only fear losing something if you think that, or at least logically, you only fear losing something if you think that you made it. But if you give up on the fact that you made it, that you caused it, then there's nothing to fear, because you have no control over it anyway. So what's it going to help you to fear it, to fear losing it? It's a very interesting thing he said. He said, I'm not afraid at all. So was he really not afraid or not? I don't know. But I think that this is exactly what Ahava Rabbah feels like. It's not something that I gave. So really, you can think about everything in your life and say, I didn't make any of this. You could say that. Then maybe you'd lose all fear of losing it. Maybe that's what a person experiences before they pass away. They suddenly realize everything I had here wasn't my doing. And when you realize that, you stop fearing. You stop fearing death also. You stop fearing everything. So what if you lived your life that way the whole time? So that would be Mesiras Nefesh. I think that's what it means. Mesiras Nefesh means this is all God's. It's not mine. So I'm free to do whatever I want. Free of fear. I think we talked about this once. Anyway. אך שלא לכל אדם בא לו אהבה רבה להיות בבחינת 20 גירה, אך בחינת אהבה ראשונה חובה על הכל. So even though not everybody has the second type of love, which is what comes from above, what descends down from God to you, but everybody is obligated to culture and to cultivate the first type of love, which depends on your contemplation, on your mental constructs. That's why we only give half, because the 20 geira, the 20 measures, are divided into 10 and 10. The 10 representing the lower love, the love that comes out of contemplation, and the 10 representing the higher love that comes from God. It says, I can't give the higher love. It's not under my control. I can't give it. So I only give my lower love, which is under my control because I'm obligated to develop it. So here, why am I giving it? So I'm giving it because of what we just said, that we want there to be Mesiras Nefesh. We want there to be, even though I cultivated, I contemplated, I worked on it, I constructed it, I want to give it completely to Hashem. And what he's saying is that by giving what I cultivated and contemplated and built myself to Hashem, Hashem will complete the picture and give the other 10 measures of this shekel, representing the love that comes from above. Okay? Why does it say all those who pass by the accounting? It says you can read the accounting as different, a little bit differently. Pikudin can also be mitzvos. Lifkod. Lifkod means to command somebody. So it also means, like we say in the Zohar many times, Ramach Pikudin. Ramach Pikudin is 248 mitzvos. We use a different word. We don't say mitzvos. In Aramaic, pikud is a mitzvah. It's basically the same word. It's just a synonym. Even those who pass over the mitzvos, meaning that they did an avera, meaning, in other words, you would say, really, that he's talking about bittul Torah. Really, that's what he's talking about. He's saying, even if you're over on that, what is the blemish that cannot be fixed? When a person has time and he doesn't learn. So, you had time to develop your lower love. You had time to develop your contemplation of God, the construct in your mind, and you didn't do it. So there's no way to make up for it. So obviously you don't have that much of lower love even. Still, you still have to give the 10 as if you have all 10 parts of the lower love. Because these are yours. Whatever you have, you have. And then what you're saying is that even the 10 that I'm giving, they're not really mine. So that itself is like again, like you said, I'm foregoing even that. I'm giving that b'mesiras nefesh. And we finished. We finished the mimer.
Oh, shit.
So that's a beautiful explanation of why it's the. Again, you can give many explanations, I guess. You could have built a different symbolic structure around it, but it's very beautiful. That you have the shekel; it's divided into 20 parts, and you only give 10, and like the idea is that Hashem gives the other 10. And so, where is that in our life? Where is that in our avoda? It says that I have to build my 10 sfirot, my 10 powers of contemplative love, what I contemplate and develop in my mind, and in return, Hashem gives me the 10 measures of supernal love, which come from above. They're not. But again, even if He doesn't give it to me, I'm still obligated to hand over my half, the things that my contemplation, what my contemplation has led to. It's a very short and easy explanation of the whole symbolism around the half a shekel.
יפה, מאוד.